Today, Minister Youngblood and I talk about the tie between the pastor and the community, the need for pastors to model what is preached, as well as the challenge of being a priest in our own homes. Join this discussion by using the hashtag JDO3podcast or by emailing me at pastorjohnny@firstmet.org. And now, part 5 of Me, Myself, and I, the priest, the preacher, and the pastor.
Watch this principle Jesus did. All these people following him, listening to every word he says. I'm talking in the 10,000s, the thousands. And he stops. And these people hungry, man. These people have been walking with me the whole time. Hey, what you got? Master, all I got is 2 fish and 5 loaves. Give it to me. We're going to make something happen. The current, man, I talked to a brother that I grew up with who's preaching, and I see the stuff that he would post, and I'd be like, living your blessed life, you on the south side, you surrounded by poverty. Well, man, hey, man of God, they got to get it just like I did. What? Man, the community ain't my responsibility. What? Yes, it is. Jesus had enough in him. And not only did he feed them once, he fed them twice with a bigger crowd. Because in his mind, and this is what pastors don't think about, if I ain't got no people, the ministry means nothing. Pastors that are going to watch this, I don't care how you feel. If you ain't got no people, you ain't got no church. That's a fact. Because you know what COVID showed me? And me and you discussed this, and people gonna laugh at this when they see it. All these years, these Negroes were talking about, if it was just the chairs in here, I would preach. Oh yeah? Well, COVID hit, and God is like, chairs need a word. I'm waiting. And you find that they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it make more sense? Take care of God's people. I'm not saying go broke doing it. Because a church member receiving a gift, I'm not talking about what pastors do in private, they help people out. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about as a collective, because when people see that, they're going to be like, oh, I really am appreciated.
Yeah. You know, there are not a lot, but some that would talk about the need to cause the people to make sacrifices for their own growth, but don't make the sacrifices for their own growth. You see what I'm saying? It's like, oh, well,
that's pop, man. You said my food.
I'm going to make these people sacrifice and do all of these things to carry out this miraculous task so that their faith may increase. But then the role that I play in that same contribution is more of a director than a leader and a modeler. And so it's like, well, if this is good for them, then this same thing should be good for you. And so,
it should be.
How do we shift that? Because it's not everybody, but for those who lead by not modeling, but by just kind of, directing, so to speak.
Well, the pastor is a steward. He is, in a sense. But I'm also, and I like the way you phrased it, Tree, and I'm going to go back to that old adage, what's good for the goose. You understand? What's good for them? Because you got to understand, Tree, and this is what people don't understand, there is a certain psychology behind pastoralship. And I'll give people the plainest example. When you come into church, where is the pulpit? It is at the center, and it is above the people. There is a symbolism and psychology with that preachers have taken, and they know it's ingrained into the heads of the people to where they let them run and they do nothing. Yeah, I know what the scriptures say. It was a Habakkuk, write the vision, make it plain so that I got that. But how much more better would the vision be if you actually were a part of it?
And I think when we look at the efforts of leaders like Paul,
he was out there, man. He was in the trenches. These preachers don't want to get dirty. You don't even go with put your people to evangelism. You sit in the office. How can they learn unless there is a teacher? You want to teach people to give? You give. But I'm going to throw this in there. Pastors, it is not the sole responsibility of the people to keep up the church. I'm sorry. God gave you that call. You are accountable. So when church bills ain't getting paid, you probably need to reach in your pocket. You don't need to give them a sermon on why they not giving. Because if you sit down and examine why they not giving, it's probably a simple answer. They don't believe you. It's not God they got a problem with. It's you.
Yeah. I think that when you talk about the credibility piece, particularly with some conversations that I've had with millennials, they don't have a general, and this is a blanket again, you should never do blankets, but they don't have a general problem with benevolence or charity.
No.
A lot of them are very, one of the young ladies that I was talking to, she's a daughter, and she said, oh, I give all the time to those GoFundMes. And I'm like, what? Yeah. When I see stuff and somebody needs a surgery or somebody needs this, $20, $50. I'm like, man. And at the end of the year, she's like, I got enough to write off if I could, because I'm that aware of the community and what people need. So I'm sitting there thinking, oh, okay, well, I had to ask, but I'm sure if you looked at her contributions to the church, that they weren't equal. You know what I'm saying? But in her heart, she had been benevolent. So to call her selfish or to call her, undisciplined or something like that, she's like, no, I'm compassionate and I'm charitable.
But her tithe, watch this. God gives her a reward because she gave out of her heart. Why don't people give? Well, because if you notice now, and I want to tell black people this, the whole time we were watching Donald Trump and watching this coronavirus, it's a whole black renaissance happening. More black folks are turning up with small businesses, fulfilling the needs of what the industry leaders cannot, and you see more black folks shopping with black folks now.
Yeah.
So you see, this is the oppressor. Look at my hand here, while the other one is behind my back. Look at Trump. Look at the coronavirus, but behind my back, I'm trying to destroy you. But all the while, we're giving back to our own. We're volunteering time. You see a brother like Trader True in Hurricane Harvey, who the church would write off out there in a boat, getting God's people. What you mean ain't no reward for him? But because he ain't doing it for your organization, it's a problem.
And what's sad about that, to go back to this whole idea of collaboration, is the idea that he could come and say, hey guys, the next storm, I want to have 15 boats out there, and I got another 10 people that want to drive these boats. Will the church, sponsor these boats? And it's like, nah, you're not a Christian.
Well, also a lot of churches don't have the infrastructure to do it. A lot of them don't, and it's because of poor financial management.
Yeah.
The church don't teach finances.
Now we've talked about that before, is that the management and stewardship habits of the congregation are often reflective of the congregation that they're a part of, because the pastor is the one that preaches those principles. And so if he's preaching principles from his own narrative, like you got to have this kind of car, you got to live in this kind of house, this is this,
they won't be
that,
blessed. Then
the people in the pew reflect that and chase those things, and thus they mirror those habits. And so that's a very dangerous game we play as well.
I'm going to teach you something, Tree. When people would come to me and ask me to prophesy, I'll be like, what do you need? Because I'm not that, I could call it out, but I want to hear it from your mouth. I need a financial blessing. You know what my response is? Pull up your bank statement. I'll tell you where your money going. Because they're not taught. The church was designed, synagogue in Hebrew means community. We are not teaching things that the community, why are there not more churches with seminars on finances, stocks, how to invest? Then you go down the ladder. We got lawyers in God's house. Why you ain't using these brothers and sisters? Because they willing. You'll find the people in position want to teach. Why don't you use your lawyers and teach these brothers and sisters about what they need to do in the event they're pulled over by a cop from a legal perspective? If you empower the people, a good ruler, watch this, and then I'm going to shut my mouth. King Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, the people came and were outside yelling, "Have we no share in the house of David?" It was the people that helped David get to where he was, culminated with the hand of God. It was his nephews that were his mighty men. It was these regular people that were bringing in all the materials needed to build the house of God. And they did not complain because they saw, hey man, when David, if you watch the scriptures, there was a real turning point when David danced before the Ark of the Covenant. That was a turning point. Yeah. Because if David, the king, and mind you, he ain't even coming in as the king, he coming in as a priest. I'm here to, man, do you know what this means? Well, the people are like, oh man, well, if David will dance before it, I'll do it too.
Yeah. What a responsibility we have as men of God. I want to close this out by, we always talk about being a priest in our home. How challenging or how easy is it to be that priest in the home compared to being the priest of a congregation?
The home is actually the hardest. The home is the most important. That's your first ministry. Before the institution of church, family was already established. I'm learning with my children that I'm not watching them grow up. It's the other way around. They're watching me grow up. But when you take a good look at it, you see yourself. And that's when you have to go to the altar in your heart. Be like, look, I got to submit, man, because it's in them. When I was pastoring, I said, I'll let this whole church go down before I let my family go down. Because the narrative of the minister, other way around. It's preachers that are influenced right now whose families can't stand it. Because you gave more time to that ministry, but not the most important ministry. Without family, I got nothing. I got nothing, Tree. They will leave. The people will leave. They will not. At the end of the day, everybody who's watching this don't have an opinion about me. So what? My kids love me. My kids seek me for wisdom and help. That's what matters to me. So yeah, another thing I couldn't do, I could not balance being a pastor and a father. I couldn't do it. Because what you find, Tree, is that the issues of the people go home with you. Right? Yeah. See, this for those that are serious pastors. The real pastors know what I'm talking about. Yeah. That their burdens don't stay at church. They leave with you. So I gotta deal with them, my family, and me.
Thank you for joining us on Pastor JDO3, the podcast. I am eager to hear your feedback about today's podcast. Look, email me at pastorjohnny@firstmat.org or connect with me on any of the social medias by simply searching Johnny Ogletree III. You can also find me by looking up the hashtag PastorJDO3. I want you every Monday at 7 a.m. to join this community for another podcast that is sure to drive thought and inspire dialogue. I truly look forward to sharing the next podcast with you. I'll see you next week on Pastor JDO3, the podcast.